The cost is almost the same. So what's better for your farm? A backhoe attachment for your existing tractor, or an old full-size industrial backhoe? Daggone, it's a big old bucket, ain't it?
If this video helps you, please help me by clicking the subscribe button.
I'm going to start this backhoe comparison by talking about my baby backhoe. Isn't it cute? There are several disadvantages to having a backhoe attachment. So let me go over a few of those right now. And the first one is obvious, and that is capability. The capability of this does not compare to the capability of that. But, and I'll get more into this in just a minute, don't get me wrong, it still beats the heck out of this. The other downside to having an attachment is every time you go to use it, or any time that you want to go use something else like a box blade or an auger or a disc or something like that, you have to take this on and off of your tractor. So that is a downside, but again, I'm gonna go ahead and add a big but, and that is, but it's not that difficult to do nowadays. Taking this off my tractor is probably, I would say, a 5-minute job, and it gets shorter every time I do it, because every time I do it, I just get better at it. And putting it back on is a 15-minute job, and I imagine that as I get better with it, I will shorten that time too. And the only reason I say it's a 15-minute job is because I don't like the location of where the hoses route on this, and it gives me issues every time I put this on and off the tractor. Plus, when I'm storing it, these legs that hold it up leak down, and it's no longer in that perfect position for lining things up and getting it all attached, and so then I'm having to play with the controls and get it just right so I can hook it back up. Now, one of the other downsides to having a backhoe attachment is your speed of digging. And so when I say speed of digging, I'm not talking about the fact that you're digging less dirt at a time. I would kind of classify that as limited capability. Instead, what I mean is when I'm using a big backhoe, I don't have to drive, and let's say I'm digging like a long ditch, I don't have to drive forward to continue digging the ditch. Instead, I can just take this boom and release, lift my front bucket, release the brake, all from that one seat because it pivots, and then take that boom and push myself forward. And I can walk it forward with that boom, plant everything back in place, put my parking brake back on, sit my front bucket back down, put my stabilizer bars down, and dig away. It makes it a whole lot faster digging a long ditch. With this, on the other hand, I've got a second seat back here, and from this seat I can't reach the brakes of the tractor, and it's quite a stretch to be able to reach the front loader. And so what I found is I tend to, instead of trying to push myself backward using the boom like I would on my industrial, it almost is just easier and faster to hop off, get in the driver's seat, move up a little bit, hop back off again, and get back in on the excavator pad. And so that ends up taking you a whole lot more time when you're digging, because you can't just dig and then push yourself back and dig some more. Now, I do think there probably are some people who have mastered doing that still, even on one of these. I'm not one of them, and it might just be this particular tractor. Even if I don't use my parking brake when I'm digging, this little tractor gets moved around too much while I'm digging in this hard packed ground. And so I pretty much have to use that parking brake, and I can't release it from this seat back here. Another disadvantage of the attachment is if you finish digging everything you need to dig on your farm and it's time to get rid of it. Now, these do sell pretty decent, but because it's frame mounted and they are fairly specific to the tractor, it's not as easy to sell as an industrial backhoe is going to be. You are going to have to find someone with nearly the same model tractor to be able to sell this. I really wish that compact tractors were built with swivel seats so that when you were working on those backhoes, all you had to do is swivel around and get to work. That would be a whole lot better setup. When you're digging with this, I have found that sometimes it's hard to figure out where to put your dirt. While with only having what I believe is an 8-foot reach, and maybe it's 9 foot, I'm not quite sure, but with only having that short reach, and you dig here and you have to sit your dirt either right over there or right over here, which doesn't give you a whole lot of options. And so by comparison, when I am digging with this one, I can put that dirt kind of wherever I want it. I mean, I want to say that this is like 21 feet long or something like that. And so I can dig here and I can sit dirt down way over there, which really comes in more handy than you think, because a lot of times you've got trees in the way, you're trying to dig alongside of a road, and you don't want to just be sitting all your dirt right in the road or the driveway or on the gravel. Or for example, when I was digging a pond, there was such limited access back there, and I didn't want to put the dirt right where it would go back in the pond. I wanted it somewhere where I could get to it with my front loader, and there just wasn't a way to do it with this tiny little backhoe. Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to let you know that I have partnered with Super Clean, and if you hit that subscribe button right now, you're going to be entered for a chance to win a gift basket of cleaning products from them. So what do you have to lose? Click that subscribe button and help me out. Thanks. The good thing about buying an attachment like this are many. One of them is the fact that when you buy an attachment, all these pins in here are going to be brand new. They're going to have no wear on them whatsoever. So when you're digging, this is going to be a very, very tight, nice machine that digs precise. This thing has 2 years and 250 hours of use on it, and so far it's been mostly backhoe use, and so far all those pins are staying greased and everything's staying tight. And so for basically as long as I know, this is going to be a nice, tight, precise digging machine. Now, I think a lot of people will sit there and tell you that there's no point in having one of these, and those people have apparently never used one. You see, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say that, yeah, you can't break through rocks with that. In my soil, something like that would never work. They sit there and go, you know, you might as well get out a shovel. Well, those people are very, very wrong. I don't know if you can tell it, but I've got some really rough soil here, and I have dug through it without many problems at all using that. It actually has an impressive amount of downforce for such a small piece of equipment. And I put in all of my underground utilities for the house that we're building back here using this tractor. What I have found is that probably the people who don't feel like these backhoe attachments are capable diggers are probably people who just don't know how to use a backhoe, because there's a certain amount of skill involved in it, and you don't pick it up the first time you use it. And I know the first time that I was in an excavator, I was in a large excavator and I couldn't get the darn thing to dig. And so I think that those same people hop onto one of these tractors and they try to dig with it and they can't get it to dig, and they blame the equipment. Well, it's not true. I'm here to tell you that these little things are very capable. Now, they don't dig as fast as like a mini excavator or something like that, but they can dig through the exact same soil that a mini excavator can. The big advantage to having the smaller backhoe attachment is reliability. Now, of course, this will depend on how reliable your existing tractor is, but I'm guessing that your existing tractor is probably a lot newer than the old backhoe that you're going to be looking at purchasing. And with age comes problems, and you're definitely, especially in my case, this is just a way more reliable machine to operate. Now, moving over to the industrial backhoe, let's start by talking about what's good about it. And that, of course, is the capability. This machine right here is insanely powerful. I just can't even tell you how quickly you can move dirt with this. With that big bucket down there, you can just, in a matter of minutes, you can dig gigantic holes. It's incredible. And with the humongous front loader, I've got a dump trailer, and if you want to put dirt in that dump trailer, it only takes a few scoops. It's pretty awesome having a machine that's this big and this capable around the farm. It fulfills a need that I think most men get when they're about 3 or 4 years old playing in a big pile of dirt. And that need never goes away. We like to move dirt and change the way the landscape is, and by God, this machine can do it. Now, there are only 2 disadvantages to buying an old industrial backhoe, but they are huge. The first disadvantage is maintenance. You now have 2 machines to maintain. And I don't just mean grease, I mean maintain. Everything you've been doing to keep your existing tractor up and running, you will now be doing to a whole second tractor. And I should note too that servicing one of these big industrial tractors of this size requires a lot bigger tools than that little tractor does back down there. Everything I need to work on that little compact Mahindra down there, I can find in what I use to work on cars and trucks. I can't do that here. I had to buy my whole new sets of extra large wrenches and sockets and impact sockets and things to be able to work on this tractor. Everything is very, very oversized, overbuilt, and large, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. It does make it a lot more difficult to service and work on. And the other big, huge disadvantage of buying an old industrial backhoe is reliability. Now, I can't tell you how many times in the past I've heard, why would anybody spend $8,000 on a backhoe attachment when you can buy a whole huge industrial backhoe for practically the same amount of money? And I bought into that, and that is why I own this. And I'm here to tell you, this is probably the worst purchase I've ever made in my entire life. So if you haven't figured it out, that's where this video is going. Don't buy an industrial old backhoe. So here's the deal. Reliability of this machine is horrendous. Now, every single one of these old industrial backhoes was first used probably in construction, and in the construction trade, equipment is used hard. It is used daily, and it was built to be used like that. But what is it, 40 years have gone by? 40 years. And so for those first 25 years, it was used hard every day, and then it got retired and it got put on somebody's farm. And that's kind of what happened with all this equipment. And some farmer used it, and it was probably a pretty decent machine for him back in 1998. And the problem is that when these become farm equipment, they stop being used every day. They come out of the barn, you know, once a month, sometimes less. And I have this opinion on all equipment, whether it's a car, whether it's a tractor, whether it's a boat, anything. The less often it's used, the less reliable it becomes. Because being used is what makes them reliable. It keeps everything lubricated, keeps all the rubber in good shape, and it keeps everything on the radar to be serviced as well. Some people are probably going to be saying that dude, you just bought the wrong backhoe. You know, I've got one, it's reliable, you know. But here's the thing, people tend to not sell their old backhoes that run really good. You know, when you have something that's old and it's reliable and still good, you tend not to sell it. And I kind of knew that going into this, and that's why I shopped for almost a year before buying this one. And I thought I had finally found the perfect old industrial backhoe to buy. You see, I bought this from an old man who lives in my area, who was selling it because he was getting old and he just couldn't put time in the seat anymore. And he told me that this was probably the best John Deere 310A around. Now, this wasn't just some machine that had been sitting there doing nothing. In fact, less than 50 hours ago, he had done almost a full overhaul on this machine. He had been all through the engine. He had split the tractor. It has brand new reverser clutches in it. It had all new hydraulic lines on it, he said. And he had already rebuilt the front bucket, put all new pins and bushings in that. The only thing that didn't have new pins and bushings was the hoe. So when I bought this, I thought I was pretty golden. I thought I had found a deal of a backhoe. I've always had really good luck in the past with old tractors. I mean, you know, you just can't beat an old Ford or an old Massey Ferguson tractor. They can be 60 years old or older and still start up for you reliably. And this particular unit is from the heyday of John Deere, in my opinion. The 70s was basically when John Deere made their best equipment. So I have what I feel like is one of the you know, pillars of the brands of backhoes to own, and yet at this day and age it does not have the type of reliability that an old tractor does. And a lot of that is because these are more than just old tractors. The amount of hydraulics on this thing is incredible, and old tractors they don't have hydraulics hardly. You don't have many hydraulic hoses, you don't have all these cylinders on them. There's a lot less to an old tractor, which is why they're still reliable. And with these backhoes, there's a lot more systems that needed to maintain, and there's a lot more that can go wrong with them. So for this particular backhoe that I bought, you're gonna notice that I don't have much footage of it working. In fact, I don't think I have any footage of it working. And the reason for that is because every single time I have taken this thing out to use it, something has broken. Every single time. In fact, I haven't hardly got to use this backhoe at all, and I've owned it a year and a half. I have spent probably 5 times as long working on it than I have digging with it. And so that's why I would say that even though you're not going to be able to dig nearly as much with this little tiny bucket on this little tiny baby backhoe, if I was you, I'd much rather spend more time digging than I would wrenching. And that's why I would recommend this way over that, because digging is fun, wrenching, not so much.
I hope this video helped you. If it did, would you mind helping me by clicking the subscribe button? We are a family of 6 living our best life on 90 acres in the Ouachita Mountains of Arkansas. And every time someone hits that subscribe button, it helps grow our channel. We appreciate you.